Chapter 9 looks at intelligence and language. We're going to put a lot more focus on intelligence and realize that language is a system of communication that uses symbols, but it's really our tool for expressing our intelligence or communicating our intelligence. So we're going to spend more focus on what it means or what are some of the theories surrounding our intelligence. The definition of intelligence is that it's your ability to think, to learn from experience, to solve problems, and to adapt to new situations. Your intelligence is basically your ability to learn, to interact in everyday life. Now, intelligence testing. The goal of that was just to help instructors, help teachers determine which students needed a little more help in class and which ones learned quickly. So what we've realized is that there's this thing called general intelligence, designated by the lowercase g, and it's a number, it's a representation of your overall intelligence. More recent theories are pointing to what we call specific intelligences, designated by the lowercase s, and these are skills in more narrow domains. So one of these theories, to give you an example, is the three-part or triarchic theory, and it says that we can be analytically intelligent, creatively intelligent, or practically intelligent. So analytical is going to be that problem-solving side. Creativity is going to be the artsy side. Some of that will include problem-solving. And then the practical side is going to be kind of your everyday street smarts kind of intelligence. It lends us to realize that there are two types of thinking. Convergent thinking, which is looking for the one right answer. People with high analytical intelligence are going to tend to think this way, that there's really only one right answer and I have to figure it out. Divergent thinking, on the other hand, is realizing that there could be multiple solutions to any one problem. This involves more of the creative intelligence. Realizing that there might be one better answer, but there might be 6 possible answers. And then being able to figure out which one is the correct one, or the best one at a given situation. That's divergent thinking. Now for creative thinking, there's a theory that there are 5 components that are needed. So to encourage creative thinking, the individual has to have expertise, which is knowing a lot about the subject at hand. They have to use imaginative thinking. This is a skill that can be practiced and learned. They have to be willing to take risks. They have to have an intrinsic interest in whatever it is that we're doing. And they have to work in a creative environment. Now, if the environment in which you're working is going to require you to work fastly, produce a high number of productivity, or maybe it pays on bonuses, that decreases creative thinking because it puts so much pressure on just getting it done. So a creative environment is going to be a little bit more relaxed pace, an environment where new crazy off-the-wall ideas are welcome and at least discussed. Okay, so those are the 5 components of creative thinking. Now there's another theory of intelligence that looks at these specific intelligences that is actually my favorite, and it's Howard Gardner's 8 specific intelligences. The first one of those is linguistic, or word smart, people who have a large vocabulary, people who like to read or write. Logical or math smart, self-explanatory, right? People who are good at math. But then there's spatial smart. So these people are going to be good at identifying sizes of spaces, following directions, knowing whether they're facing north, south, east, or west, things that I'm not any good at. The spatial smart individuals tend to be better at geometry, whereas the logical or math smart people are going to be better at algebra, trig, calculus, those kinds of math activities. Then there's musical smart. enjoy music or perform or write music. Kinesthetic, body smart, people who are good at athletics, enjoy athletics, or just have a hard time sitting still for long periods of time. So I'm by no means athletic, however, me sitting through an hour lecture is very difficult. So what can I do to improve my learning and enable me to do that, since that's what I have to do in class? I found ways of tapping my foot, not in a loud way that it disturbs anybody else, but it allows me to have some physical body movement without getting out of my chair and disrupting class. Interpersonal. You're good at relationships. You like to talk to people. You have a large group of friends. Kind of opposite of intrapersonal, which is knowing yourself. So you spend a lot of time reflecting on how you affect people and how other people affect you. You know yourself pretty well. And then there's naturalistic. These people with the green thumb that can grow anything, anywhere. I'm not one of. I kill everything. There are no plants in my house. Okay? But the naturalistic, people who enjoy nature. So how can you incorporate that into studying? Well, for some people, it's as simple as sitting outside to study. Sitting outside, being in nature, and then they're able to focus and retain more. What I like about the specific intelligences is it gives us more options for people to customize how they study and how they learn so that they can have better results in school. So when we're looking at all of these intelligence tests, how do we figure out what's the standard or what's the normal? How do we gauge that? The process is called standardization, and it's simply testing as absolutely many people as possible and then taking an average score according to each age. So you take the scores of everybody who was 32 at the time of the test, get and average their scores together. You take the scores of everyone who was 31, everyone who was 30, everyone who was 29, everyone who was 5. And you develop from that an average for each age. Then when you go to determine their IQ, you divide the mental age, or the age at whose average they hit, and divide it by their actual chronological age. And then you multiply that by 100 just to give you a whole number. So if someone tested at the age of 25, but they were actually 19, what would be their IQ? You do the math. If the IQ is below 70, they are technically considered mentally retarded. If their IQ is 130, 135 or higher, they are considered a genius or a prodigy. And most of the rest of us fall somewhere between those numbers, focusing around about 100. So most of us are going to test at a mental age very close to, if not, our chronological age. Okay? But an interesting thing to note is what we call the Flynn effect. And notice that about every 10 years, everybody that takes the test gets smarter by about 3 IQ points. Every 10 years. Why is that? Haven't answered that question yet. Is it our access to information? Is it what we know about development? I don't know. But the Flynn effect states that about every 10 years, there's an increase of about 3 points on the overall IQ scores of people being tested. Now, as an adult, if you wanted to get your IQ tested, more than likely you would go to someone who would administer the WAIS test, W-A-I-S, or the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. It's the most widely used for adults. Question. Knowing what we just talked about intelligence, are you born with it? Or is it the result of your raising, your environment? Nature versus nurture. This is one of the primary questions back from the beginning of our exploration this quarter. or this month. What causes us to be as smart as we are or aren't? Is it what we were born with, or is it what we experienced as we grew up? So let's put this together with language. There's a couple of terms I want you to understand about language, and then I'm going to leave you with a question. When we're looking at language, again, it's the symbols that allow us to communicate. Syntax. These are the rules by which we construct sentences. This is why you have to take Comp 1 and 2, to get good and to learn the rules of syntax, communicating in proper English. Contextual information. When we're talking and having a conversation, we're generally giving some kind of gestures, facial expressions, vocal cues, other than our words, as to how we're feeling or what we mean. Words have many meanings. It's the information surrounding my use of the word that tells you what I really meant. If I'm being sarcastic, if I'm being funny, if I'm making a play on words. It's the context around which I use the word that gives you information as to what it really means. So here's my question. Can you think without language? Or when you think, is it always in words?